Hey, gang, go get this stuff so we can paint.
Wow, I have really let myself go.
SoulKeever, you're out of shape, buddy!
Well, that doesn't make any sense. If I were out of shape, I wouldn't even be here. Everything you see has a shape. The lines on my shirt are flat shapes. They have length and width. They're rectangles. My belly is a shape too. It's round, but it's three-dimensional, so it's called form instead. That means it's got length, width, and height.
I can see it! You're shaped a lot like a butthorn!
Why don't we go someplace where we can start our first project? Alright. Let's begin with a few supplies that you're going to need to begin this first project. You're going to need a piece of white paper, just plain white paper. You're going to need a marker, some scissors, some crayons, just a few colors, whatever. You're going to need a ruler, and of course, you're going to need some glue. Can't forget the glue or else we're not going to be able to put it together. So let's begin our first project now, which is going to involve form, which is three-dimensional, and shape, which is two-dimensional. Now the first thing you want to do is set aside all this other stuff here and get your ruler and your marker. Now take this piece of paper and we want to make straight lines. So let's get everything situated and we want to get it to about the edge of the paper because we want enough room to make these boxes. Now what we want to do, get your marker and mark about 2 inches across and then another 2 inches up and down, boom, and then boom, and then we go across again, connect the lines. And down at the edge here, we create a little lip, and this will help us connect the edges of these boxes later on. It's very important we make these. We want about the shape of a cross when we're said and done, and then we want all these lips here, but we don't need this lip up here. This one is just a little mistake that I made, so go ahead, forget about that lip. And what we want to do is we want to start drawing, shapes, and we want to make the same sort of shapes on each box so that it looks all uniform. So I'm going to draw this shape here, little curves that make it look like there's another sort of cross going into the middle of this here, and I'm going to continue it into this box. And you want to make sure that these lines connect as best you can. Now on the edges of these boxes up here, it's not going to look completely perfect once it's all put together, but you want to try to get it mostly right. And I'm going to keep drawing this, and I want to draw, another shape here. So it looks like there's sort of a boxy circle going around inside of that. And I'm going to do the same thing in this next box over here. And I'm going to keep doing that all over both of those until I have this shape here. And that looks pretty cool, right? Now what I want to do is color this because color just makes things more interesting always, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this little cross on the inside red. I'm going to color that red, and then the little circle or the border that's going around this box, I'm going to take my blue crayon and I'm going to make it, blue. And you can make yours whatever color you want. And now we keep doing that on all the other boxes, and finally the end result is going to be this. Okay, what we want to do is get out our scissors now, and we're going to start cutting this shape out, or cutting out the entire thing. Once you're finally done cutting your shape out, your shape is going to look something like this. Okay? We're going to start folding our shape now. So what you want to do is take this edge here and make sure that you're folding right along that edge. Right along that edge. And that way, make sure that everything looks nice and even on the other side. That way when we fold it over, it's going to create a box when we fold all the pieces together. Now these lips, we want to fold them inward, just like this. Just like this. Same thing, fold right along that line. Now with everything folded along these lines, let's take out our glue, and we're going to go along these little lips here that we created, and we're going to put it right along that inside there. Because what's important is, these are going to go inside the cube. So that when we fold these over, the edges meet on the inside of these shapes. And then you hold them in place. And when the edges on that have dried, you can go along to the other lips, put some glue on those, and then you can do the same thing. You can connect them to the inside edge of another side. We press them together, and we wait a few seconds. And after we have glued all the sides together, all the lips to all the sides, we should have a cube that looks like this. A very, very delightful little project that has your unique shapes on this very simple form that everyone knows and recognizes. You might call it a shapeful cube, even. It is so easy to create your own shapeful cube. You've got half of it done already. All you gotta do is create the cube, and then you put the shapes on it, and then you've already explored form, and you've already explored shape. Isn't that wonderful? What do you want? Wake up! Oh, this is weird.
SoulKeever, you're out of shape, buddy!
No.
Yeah, you are!
No, we're not doing this again. We already covered this. Do you remember our first project? 'Cause I do. And I really don't want to make it again. Maybe you noticed while we were making our first project, but not all shapes come in perfect circles and squares. For this next project, we're going to need a ruler, a marker, preferably a black one, some colored pencils, a tube of acrylic paint, and, of course, a sheet of paper. Now, what I want to do for this project is I want to emphasize geometric versus organic shapes. I'm going to start with the geometric shapes. So, I'm going to create a line right down the middle of the paper. Just draw a straight line. And then, I'm going to turn the ruler to create a square. And I'm going to draw this way. And I'm going to keep dividing the paper up until I have a whole bunch of squares and rectangles. And when I'm done with that, it should look like this. And I have all those squares and rectangles there. What I want to do after that, after I have all my squares and rectangles drawn, is I'm going to take one of my colored pencils and begin coloring. And I'll start right here with this big square, and I'll color this entire thing red. Now when you're coloring, feel free to fill up the entire space a bit more neatly than I'm doing here. I'm just moving a little quickly because I want to show you how you can do it, not necessarily how you absolutely have to do it. And then I'll color another square over here, a different color, and I'll keep going until all these squares and rectangles are filled with all the colors that I want. And it should look like this when I'm done. Yours can look however you want, but mine looks like this. And now that I have this, I have my geometric shapes and I have them colored, I want to create some organic shapes on this. I want to take this and I want to add a little something that's going to contrast with it. I'm going to take my tube of paint, open it up, get it going, and I'm going to add, I'm going to add just a little bit of paint. Don't make it too thick. Don't make it too thick or else it'll have a hard time drying. It's acrylic paint, so it dries fast, but acrylic paint will dry a little slower if you apply it really thick. So put it on as thin as you can. Of course, if you're drawing with a tube like I am, it's gonna go on thick no matter what you do. And just get wherever you think it should go. Wherever you feel like, oh man, this is really rigid. This really needs that little extra something. I'm just gonna make it look like all these shapes are just kind of dripping snot down the lot of them. Yeah, it makes it real fun. There we go. And once I have all my paint applied, just the way I want it, my piece is going to look something like this. But you know what? I think this could use a little extra something. So let's put a little bit of paint over here. And make sure it's dripping down a bit because I want to look like there's slime just coming over the edges of all these. Not all of them, but a lot of them. There. And what the heck, let's put some right here. That'll make it look good. And just a little dab of something up here too. There. And now things look a little more balanced. Do you see how interesting it is when you combine both geometric and organic shapes? Many, many paintings and drawings and even sculptures have both geometric and organic shapes in them. Very rarely will there be a painting or a sculpture that has just one or the other. So don't be afraid of this one. Go for it. You can do it.
Wake up! SoulKeever, you're out of shape! Shut up!
Oh, great. I'm not totally sure, but I think I'm stuck in a time loop. You know, each day is the same, but also each day is a little different, which makes no sense. I really wish you would make a decision about my wardrobe. And speaking of some things being different, some things being the same, that brings us right into our next project. Okay, what we need for this project is a ruler, we need a pencil, a pen, and some Play-Doh. Now, what we need to do is we need to mark off some spaces where we're going to draw some lines because we want to divide this piece of paper up into multiple, well, bricks. And what I want to do is I want to draw an inch of space all along this border right here. And then I want 2 inches of space all along this border over here and this border over here. And we just draw a straight line across. Then I'll go in between these bricks and I'll mark it off right in the center of those. Now when I'm finished drawing that, it's going to look a lot like this. We're going to have some very, very attractive brickwork on our hands. And to create our man with superpowers, we have to think of some very simple shapes. Like for his head, we create a ball like this. And we want to have sort of a little bit of a round bit on top and then sort of a rectangular shape on the bottom. For the rest of it, we gotta think in very simple shapes. Like for his torso, we're going to think in terms of a triangle. Okay, so we got a triangle like that. We mashed it up real good, and boom, his torso has a triangle shape. To create an upper arm, well, we're going to think in longer cylinder shapes. See, we've already got a cylinder shape right here for the upper arm, and then we need a cylinder shape down below that's a little thicker at the top than it is at the bottom, because he needs to look like he's got a wrist. We don't want to get all caught up in like fingers and stuff, so we're going to make like he's ready to go into battle, and we're going to create something that looks like a fist. So we want to create a small cube like that, and then for his thumb, because we want him to look like a little bit like a hand, we just roll up a little piece of clay like this, tack it onto the side. If we poke it onto the edge of his forearm, it's already looking a little bit like a fist. Before I forget, I want to create a couple of shoulders, or a couple of deltoids. A deltoid is a shoulder for all the people who don't know out there. And we're going to pop that right there, and we're going to cover that up. It's going to make him look like he's got some nice shoulders. If you want, you can create traps too. Traps are like trapezius muscles, and those go right between the neck and, well, the shoulders. If I pinch that a little bit and round off the edges, it looks a little bit like he's got a calf. It's kind of a big calf, but hey, it's a calf. He looks like he's got some Arnold Schwarzenegger calves on him. And then for his thigh muscle, we just kind of want to roll up a cylinder, and it's going to have a little bit more at the knee than it does at the top here. Looks like it's got a little bit of heft to it right along the top, which is what you want in a nice big thigh. And be sure that you get a little bit of hamstring in there. Hamstring is that little muscle at the back that looks kind of like a bicep if you view it from the side. It's going to be just a little bit like that. And then I'll just create a little something so that he has a kneecap and put it right there. And, well, what the heck, let's give him an elbow right here too. But let's put these aside, because I've got some other pieces off to the side over here that I want to use. You know how to create all these, so we're well on our way. You want to find out exactly where you want to place them, and then you want to slant it down. And the more that you slant, the more it looks like it's going to disappear into the background here. I'm just going to stick it right here. I'm going to flatten those pieces, flatten the bottom of them at least. For his leg, we'll just stick that together, just like that. Put the kneecap right there, and do a little bit of smoothing in the back. We're using very simple shapes to create something that's vaguely recognizable. And we're also playing with negative space. We're playing with negative space to create an interesting composition. There's a whole lot of negative space here, and the only thing that's really breaking it up is a little bit of brickwork here, which is helping us with the composition, and this man right here, this little man. And here is the finished piece. Let me pull this aside and show you what a nice finished piece ought to look like. This is my finished version. Let me get that into the camera for you.
Plato and the creation of fine art. What is the meaning of this? This demonstration has gotten far too silly. SoulKeever, you're coming with me right now. Now get over here. Well, I was looking forward to one-upping SoulKeever again, but it looks like he's detained. So, I guess I'll show you my project instead. This was anticlimactic. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have called Officer Tight Cheeks. How could you? Wake up!
abstract shapes represent fragments of my downward spiral. No thanks to you.
Well, aren't you snippy? I almost don't want to show you mine. Of course, it's better than yours.
Ugh. Is the time loop almost over?
Almost. I can't decide which outfit I like better.
What outfit?
Wake up!
What did I do to deserve this?
You're a butthorn.
I don't know what that is! Why do you keep calling me that?
Because you're a butthorn.
We really gotta do something about this.
What? The time loop?
No! My life! But we should probably do something about the time loop, too.
Okay. Good luck.
It's obvious that DoppelKeever and I don't quite see eye to eye. So, after we're done here, I think it's time we have ourselves a chat. Mano e... Puppetto. Anyway, while I try to think of a way to restore the space-time continuum with an elementary understanding of physics, why don't we jump right into our final project? This project's going to be tough, so for all the supplies, we're going to keep it simple. You're going to need a piece of regular old printer paper, a ruler, a box of crayons, preferably one that has a lot of crayons in it, and of course we're going to need a pencil. So what we need to do first is take a sheet of paper, just that regular sheet of paper, and we're going to divide it into 3 squares or rectangles on one side, and then we're going to divide it into 4 on the other. And then what we do is we take all the marks we made after deciding where we needed to divide it, and then we use the ruler to keep our lines straight. And then let's take a look at what it should look like after we're done making our grid. Now this grid is going to make it so much easier to draw all the abstract shapes that we need to draw, because that's what we're doing today. We're going to draw a realistic kind of picture, but we're going to use abstract shapes to do it. I'm going to draw, say, an eye, and it's going to look something like this. You know, I'm going to keep it real simple. Whatever you do draw, please keep it simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my box of crayons now, and I'm going to find, some different crayons that are all very light valued. You want to start with a light value crayon, because we're going to work in layers for this. We're going to work starting from light, and then we're going to move toward the dark. I'm going to start with some areas where I think there's going to be some light hitting it. And when you do this, you just want to create any old shapes you can. You want to press very firmly, and you can just do whatever you want here. You can make little blobs. You can start making, I don't know, maybe you want to start making some lines or something and do it that way, and then you can insert some squigglies. However you want to do it. However you want to do it. Let's just color this little bag under the eye right here. We're not going to color the whole thing. I'll show you what it could look like. And notice how whenever I get up to the grid, I stop doing whatever I'm doing, and then I go into the next grid and do something else. This is going to make our drawing look very interesting. Now let's go find a medium value. Like, say, I don't know, let's get ourselves a very medium value blue like this one. And down at the bottom, where I think the shadow is going to be, there's probably going to be a shadow coming up from the bottom of this fold here. So let's go ahead and start making some new stuff over what we just did. Now we don't want to get too crazy. We want to leave some of the light stuff up here alone. Okay, we want to leave that alone so it looks like there's a little bit of depth to this. You see, as we keep doing this, we want this to sort of just blend into that. And then down here we really want to lay into it. That's going to look cool. If you want to put a couple of colors in your hand and just sort of alternate them as you go, Well, that's perfectly fine. And now what I want to do is I want to set these aside, and I want to find some really dark colors. We're going to find some really dark red. I'm going to find a real dark turquoise maybe. Real dark. Ooh, that's a nice color. We're going to choose a different one though. Indigo. Like that. Maybe a dark green. And if I can find a dark brown in here, that's going to be extra cool. Let's see. Chestnut. Ooh, that is perfect. So I'm going to use these dark colors to fill in the final bits at the bottom. Now, I don't want to go any higher than, say, right here. We might have a few shapes or pieces of dark color straggling in here. We want to keep things mostly at the bottom here so that as we color things in, it doesn't look like we're getting too crazy. After we color the entire thing, maybe we're going to wind up with something that looks like this. We've got these shapes here. We have the shape of the eye that can be seen here. We have the pupil and the iris, and then we've got the nose over here. We got a cheekbone. It's very loose, it's very abstract, and you can hardly see the pencil lines except for the grid. But the grid is okay. What we really want to do when we draw this piece is we want to try to cover up the pencil drawing. We want to try to emphasize all the crayons that we used across this piece, and we want to build up from light and build up to dark. And that way, once we're done, we'll have a drawing that perhaps will look something like this.
What do you want, butthorn?
Where did you come from?
Oh, I'm always watching. Always.
Okay, that's unsettling, but we're going to power through it. Look, I need this time loop to break open.
I don't know. What have you learned?
I don't like living the same day over and over again.
You're supposed to learn a lesson from the experience.
I prefer my outfit.
I don't like that lesson.
Why?
Because I like your outfit.
Okay, fine. That's my favorite too. I don't care. Are you gonna help me or not?
Oh, I don't think I like your attitude. Why don't you wait?
Stay quiet, you! That's more like it. Now maybe we can have some peace around here.
SoulKeever, I knew it was you as soon as I got the call. Curry with crayons, what is this silliness? You're not a child anymore. It's time to wake up.
Oh, are you kidding me? All anyone has to do is say, wake up? Oh, come on!